Coming to you from the Hudson Media Group studio, this is Talking Politics. And I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist, Top 50 Latino, as voted on by the Latino Spirit Online magazine, along with the United States Latino Affairs Initiative, and certainly now more than ever, the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State media. Because, folks, my level of honesty is necessary in this era of journalistic deception. Yes, it's me, Fernando Uribe. Folks, it's great to see some longer days now after daylight savings time, and let's be honest, some warm days are also coming up soon, and before you know it, we'll be day drinking down on the pier in Hoboken. We'll be heading down the shore. We'll just be outside and not have to be all bundled up. Isn't that a great thing? So, hey, here's to warmer days ahead, and again, longer days overall. But folks, here on the show, as always, I like to talk about really the disservice that the mainstream liberal media in New Jersey does to you every single week. And without a doubt, this coming up is no exception. And that's what I'm thinking about right now. Folks, let me tell you what's been on my mind. And since last week's State of the Union address by President Joe Biden, I have to tell you, I cannot recall in my adult life a more divisive, angry, sort of belligerent, and hostile State of the Union by a sitting president. Now, let me sort of unpackage this for you and give you some context before you think I'm just being overly partisan. Folks, I've never seen a president of the United States sit there and look at 8 Supreme Court justices. And thankfully, Clarence Thomas was not present. I mean, why would he be? Why would you want to sit there and endure that sort of boring escapade that is a State of the Union address by President Joe Biden? So, of course, as President Joe Biden is addressing the 8 justices, obviously he references their decision to reverse Roe versus Wade during the summer of 2022. And of course, being sort of very hostile towards them when it's really unnecessary. Or not caring about the border when more than 7 million illegals have crossed illegally into the United States since he took office in January of 2021. Or the fact that inflation is still a serious problem for a lot of working class Americans. Okay? People coast to coast have to decide about paying rent, buying groceries, whether or not to buy a house, even go on vacation with their kids after a long school year. Well, all those choices are becoming much, much more problematic for everyday Americans under this administration. To say nothing of the fact that, when you saw Kamala Harris standing up, sitting down, standing up, sitting down, and clapping occasionally, that's probably the most amount of work she's done in the last 3.5 years as vice president. But now, let me not digress. Folks, when watching the State of the Union, it was pretty insulting to see the president sort of belittle the memory of a nursing student from the University of Georgia that was killed by an illegal, not someone who's undocumented, okay? Folks, again, let's talk about words and how words matter and how really the left salivates over semantics, okay? There's no such thing as an undocumented person. It's like saying an arsonist is an unlicensed fire starter. That's essentially what you're doing here, okay? And that's what the left excels at. These sort of word games and these semantics because, again, they feel that no human's illegal. Folks, understand something. If you ever took U.S. history, and I teach the course, so I know what I'm talking about here, okay? And I've taken constitutional law also in grad school. Folks, there's something called sovereignty, okay? And that's contained within the United States Constitution. And that is the responsibility of the executive branch to ensure that sovereignty is preserved within our borders. The Founding Fathers understood the importance of borders back in 1787 when they ratified the United States Constitution. And some 100 plus years later, 200 plus years later, it seems like the left in the United States haven't learned their lesson. But borders matter. The idea that the border, whether it's fentanyl coming at a completely unprecedented rate, we're having illegals crossing into all these border states, filtering their way all the way up here. And again, folks, listen, I'm the son of immigrants, so I understand the struggle of immigrants. But what I will tell you is, again, being the son of a Cuban mom who fled communism and a Colombian father who fled abject poverty in South America, I can tell you that, again, they came here the right way, they came here legally, and they made a life of themselves. And I am forever grateful for the lessons they've taught me, to have a good work ethic, to have character, dignity, decorum, all those good things that, again, you learn from working class immigrant parents. So I'm forever grateful. But folks, what we've been seeing now is millions upon millions of illegals flooding into California, into Texas, and all these border states, and all the way up into New Jersey and New York. exhausting resources that really should be reserved for Americans. Okay, you start seeing schools being overcrowded. Sure, they are when you've seen illegals coming here with their anchor babies and anchor children, and guess what's happening? They're exhausting social services. They are also, again, making teachers' lives a lot more difficult, and they're also creating a disruption in the quality of life. You don't believe me? You know what? Go across the river. Go to New York City. Go to Staten Island. Go to Queens and Brooklyn, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. But of course, oblivious public officials like Mayor Eric Adams is just essentially the black Bill de Blasio. That's all he is, with these far-left progressive policies that are dooming New Yorkers, whether it's encouraging cash bail, whether it's handcuffing police officers from doing their jobs. Folks, this is the level of tone deafness we're seeing in the state of New York, where Governor Kathy Hochul, another useless Democrat in national politics, right, has called in the National Guard to monitor subway stations. Instead of letting police officers do their jobs, the National Guard is in New York inspecting bags for people going down the subways. Now, I don't even want to sort of get into the Fourth Amendment questions that raises. But the bottom line is that this administration in Washington, this president, has enabled illegal immigration, has enabled, massive crime in cities all across the country by, again, having a Justice Department that is not punitive upon prosecutors in all of these big cities. Okay? To say nothing of the fact that Joe Biden and Democrats in both the House and Senate continue to funnel money to one of the more corrupt regimes in all of the Eastern world, and that's Ukraine and President Zelensky. But again, Joe Biden stood there last week insulting our intelligence. The pathological liar that he's become, that's what we saw last Thursday night. And of course, folks, what we saw was a great response by U.S. Senator from the great state of Alabama, Katie Britt. More on her later. But folks, to no one's surprise, those on the left in not just the national media, but New Jersey media were pretty much ejaculating all over themselves last Friday morning after the State of the Union address. And one useless guy that really comes to mind, because, folks, let's be honest, if he does any bit of work, maybe 2-3 times a year, right, and maybe occasionally publishes a column, that's Max Pizarro, the editor of Insider NJ. Now, let me preface this by saying that there was a time, folks, when Insider NJ was credible, when Insider NJ was legitimate. Not just when I was working there. I mean, that's besides the point. That's already a given. But there was a time when Insider NJ took the news seriously, when they felt like reporting the news was their responsibility. What they've become now, and check out their website, is a full-blown propaganda tool for the Democrat Party, not just in New Jersey, but nationally. And here is, again, the audacity of Max Pizarro to publish who's up and who's down in politics shortly after the State of the Union address. Check out this blatant dishonesty by Maxie. And again, folks, you can tell why it's so easy to make fun of Maxie, as you can see there by the photo. He certainly doesn't help himself. But let me not digress. So he starts talking about who's up right now. Oh, Joe Biden. And check out this nonsense that he decided to put out there. I don't care what anyone says. Great speech last night by the President of the United States. An upper deck job. Republicans, with some significant and instructive exceptions, apparently don't have a problem submitting to a pygmy who might have been great as one of the villains in the old Batman TV series. What a skin-crawling shame to see grown men ubiquitously attendant to a whiny, crying child. Many purposeful, good-humored, and vigorously rooted in our American faith, Joe Biden showed leadership at the podium in the United States Capitol, the same one Donald Trump urged a mob to overrun because his own vice president sought to justly ratify the 2020 election in Biden's favor. Many people get down on Biden. I get it, but he's one of the, hopefully not last, real guy in politics. Yes, well, when you're all drugged up on Adderall and whatever other, recreational narcotics to make sure that he's coherent at 9 o'clock at night to start the city, which he didn't do that. He didn't start until 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. Okay? A precious compliment to the tough ideals of our country born out of the Enlightenment. He fundamentally understands the vitality of America, the delicate and painstaking work of diplomacy amid screams of ceasefire without secured hostages on one side and unleashing hell upon innocents on the other. And the stakes for the world if America lacks all evidence of moral fiber. Giggly spectators prepared for a corpse to show up at the podium last night, only to see the President of the United States radiating Otani power, complete with Thomas Jefferson lime twist. This is a volatile election cycle. Really, Max? What a profound observation by you. Did you think of that all by yourself, or did you, again, since you're only working 2 or 3 times a year, did someone have to tell you that? But anyway, let me not digress. Check out the Emerson College poll from earlier in the week. A national survey of voters found President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump tied at 45% in a November general election rematch, while 10% are undecided. When undecided voters are asked which candidate they lean toward, Biden's overall support increases 51 to 49. We are a nation and a world in crisis, and we don't advance by retreating into the dual enticements of anarchy and tyranny. Again, this is where Max is blatantly dishonest. There was never anarchy once from January 20th, 2017 until January 20th of 2021. That's what Max Pizarro and the rest of the Lollipop Guild in the New Jersey liberal establishment media would have you believe. And we all know who's guilty of it, right? Matt Friedman with Political NJ, right? I mean, a guy who, let's be honest, sits in his cabin all day in upstate New York, smoking weed, and let's be honest, the only pussy in the house that can really stand to be near him are his cats. It's not his wife. I mean, she's working 1 million hours a day at a bookstore, and who could blame her? Why would you want to come home to this scruffy-looking guy that looks like he's living under a bridge? Or Tom Moran, the blatant liar, editor-in-chief of the editorial board at the Star-Ledger, right? A guy who blatantly demonstrates Trump derangement syndrome every single week. Speaking of TDS, how about Alan Steinberg from Insider NJ, a 98-year-old man who, again, continues to espouse his delusions as often as he does when he publishes columns. Or Chucky, Charles Style with NorthJersey.com, again, vis-a-vis the Bergen Record. Or Terrence McDonald, Little Terry with the New Jersey Monitor. Again, another TDS sycophant that, again, can't help himself. Or the rest of the, again, Lollipop Guild, such as Jay Lasseter. Again, another pothead in New Jersey media that publishes maybe one column a month and continues with his usual derangement syndrome concerning the 45th president. But this week, again, Maxie took the cake by being blatantly dishonest here by saying, again, we are a nation and a world in crisis, right? Yeah, of course, and that's due largely in part to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. He said, the leader spoke last night to the better angels of our nature, beloved by Lincoln. His name is Biden. Well, folks, let me tell you a story about Max Pizarro, and this is why this is so blatantly dishonest. For a guy that lives down the shore, and again, who's very sheltered, again, to sit there and blatantly lie to you. Because again, what Max Pizarro won't talk about is, again, a wide open border and millions upon millions of illegals crossing the border, again, going into our cities, assaulting police officers, killing women, killing children. Folks, the examples are there. Don't believe me? Google it. It won't take you very long. But again, these are things that don't matter to someone like Max Pizarro. He's a guy that cares more about pronouns than property taxes in New Jersey. Do you really expect Max Pizarro to care about real-world issues? Of course not. He sheltered his nice little home down the shore, maybe leaves his house, 2, 3 times a year to do some physical, actual work. I mean, that's not asking a lot. If Max was really serious about the great record Joe Biden has, go to New York, Max, and check out what Democrat policies are doing to New York City, just like what they're doing here in New Jersey. Property taxes going up again in New Jersey. More on that later. Okay? But this is, again, a guy who's supposed to be the editor-in-chief of what's supposed to be a news site in the state of New Jersey that was once trusted. Folks, the only news site worth trusting in the state of New Jersey is the New Jersey Globe, edited by my good friend David Wallstein. And even if David and I were not friends, I'm still intellectually honest enough to say, hey, what David Wallstein is doing is reporting the news, breaking stories, getting scoops that nobody else is getting. What does the Insider NJ do for scoops? Maybe going to Carvel, maybe going to, Red Mango and getting scoops at the ice cream machine. Those are the only scoops Max Pizarro ever gets lately, because it's certainly not newsworthy ones. But again, this is where the liberal establishment media in New Jersey continues to do you an immense disservice. And it starts with Max Pizarro, a guy who, again, as you read the rest of Who's Up, Who's Down, has the audacity to then say, who's down, and guess who he mentions? Alabama Senator Katie Britt. All right? So he goes, look, I'm not anti-hokey and folksy. I'm just trying to be nice here, but I saw Close Encounters of the Third Kind back in the 1970s. Enjoyed it and never thought it would beam down in quite this way. Apparently the GOP thought that by putting the senator from Alabama in the kitchen, they'd escape the fate of Bobby Jindal's Let Me Tell You a Story scenario. All it did was make this kitchen look like the staging area for the next Stanley Kubrick-Steven Spielberg collaboration. Well, folks, again, and this is where, again, Max gets it wrong. What Katie Britt did by sitting at a kitchen table is sort of reminiscent of what everyday Americans are doing. They're sitting around their kitchen table. They're trying to figure out what's going wrong with this country at the hands of Joe Biden. Again, folks, gas over $3, inflation still being a problem, interest rates are still suffocating working class Americans. Well, let's be honest, less and less people are buying homes now. Rents are going up. Food prices are still a problem. We're not drilling domestically. Instead of relying on foreign oil, how about we just rely on our own reserves here instead of having to import oil and deal with the tariffs and all the taxation that comes with it? Okay? How about stop sending billions of dollars to a corrupt regime in Ukraine led by President Zelensky? A war that's well over 2 years now that's nowhere near being over. But yet, Joe Biden will have you believe that Vladimir Putin is going to have tanks walking all across the continent of Europe. Folks, he can't even beat a country no bigger than Staten Island in a 2-year war. You think that Vladimir Putin has the military might to send tanks far west into Poland and all the way out to Paris? This isn't the Nazis. This isn't Hitler rampaging through Europe. But that's what Joe Biden will lead you to believe. That Vladimir Putin somehow Adolf Hitler. That somehow we'll have tanks and Russian flags planted in every capital in Western Europe. That NATO will cease to exist. No, folks, that's not the case. The most serious geopolitical power that's threatening the United States isn't Russia. It's not North Korea. It's China. Not just militarily, but technologically and biologically. We've seen it already. But Joe Biden will lead you to believe that somehow Vladimir Putin is the second coming of Adolf Hitler. No one here is trying to praise Vladimir Putin. No one's trying to make him out to be a good guy. But let's stop inflating his military might and how serious of a threat he is. Folks, that's just not true. But again, these are the things that Katie Britt, the senator from Alabama, is trying to make you realize. That this is a president who's failed us. Now, again, certainly people have reservations with his opponent. Any potential rematch from 2020, sure. I have some reservations about Donald Trump, his character, his decorum, some things in his past, sure. But folks, when it comes to interest rates, when it comes to every metric that tells you that more and more Americans, even working class Americans, were doing better under Donald Trump, that's just the facts. Okay, gas was at $1.79. Okay, even with the gas tax here in New Jersey, that Democrats are still looking to increase once again. Okay, but this is again a woman who came out and talked like every working mom, every working dad, maybe even every single mom, every single dad, sitting at a kitchen table, concerned about the future of her family and her kids. That's what she was doing. But leave it to Max Bizzarro to make a joke out of it by referencing a Stanley Kubrick film. A guy that looks like this, right, dressed up as a cowboy. Folks, as a Dallas Cowboy fan, I'm kind of insulted because if there's the least masculine-looking cowboy out there, it's Max Bizzarro. But let me not digress on that either. Folks, when we talk about information and we talk about misinformation, you know who's leading the pack in New Jersey? It's Insider NJ. And it's Max Bizzarro, who quite frankly has zero interest in even telling you the truth, but more of his propaganda. Again, from a guy that thinks that property taxes are nowhere near as important as pronouns, it's a guy you shouldn't take seriously, nor Insider NJ. Folks, never mind the costumes, never mind the dress up. It's more about what he's not doing as a journalist. And let's be fair, Max Bizzarro stopped being a journalist a long time ago. And that's what I'm thinking about right now. Now some local stories for your consideration, and one that should really piss you off. Folks, property taxes continue to increase in the state of New Jersey, and arguably they're the highest anywhere in the country. So a special thank you to Katie Kausuk from New Jersey Advanced Media for NJ.com for her reporting on this story. Now, the average property tax bill in New Jersey increased from $9,803 last year, and now it's up to a $313 jump from a year earlier. According to the latest state data, some towns have average tax bills over $20,000. Now, property taxes and property values generally go hand in hand, meaning towns with larger, pricier homes face bigger bills. And while New Jersey tends to be known for sky-high property taxes, there are some clear outliers. For example, Walpack Township in Sussex County has the lowest property tax bill of anyone in the state at only $456. Now, taxes in the town decreased on average from $38 per home in 2022. However, though, Walpack is not your typical town. Fewer than 10 residents live in the town, which sits about a mile away from the Delaware River. And although it was always a small town, the population plummeted thanks to the proposed Tox Island Dam project, which would have left Walpack underwater. Now, the project was called off in the 1970s, but the population never bounced back. On the other end of the spectrum, though, sits Tavistock, a just a small town in Camden County. Now, residents in Tavistock pay an average of $38,000 in property taxes. Taxes went up $8,000 between 2022 and 2023. Now, Tavistock has just 3 homes and is primarily made up of the private Tavistock golf course. Now, the town was formed in 1929 as a way to get around laws banning golfing on Sunday. Millburn has the second highest property tax bill in the state at $24,947. Not just to give you, now again, folks, it's a great article. You should definitely look it up for your own edification. But let me just give you a list of the Hudson County municipalities and where they all stand. And some of the numbers might surprise you. Now, the average, again, as I mentioned before, it has gone up. So, for example, looking at Hudson County, obviously it contains 12 towns. Now, last in Hudson County is Secaucus, only averaging $7,068. So by far, if you're looking to buy a home and pay the least amount of property taxes in Hudson County, you might want to suggest looking at Secaucus. Number 11 is East Newark Borough at $7,604. Now again, we'll sort of look at some numbers here. Again, the average property value in Secaucus is $178,101. Now, in East Newark Borough, the average residential property value is $270,545. Now, coming up at number 10 is West New York, where the average residential property value is $97,606. And coincidentally, their property taxes on average are at $7,745. At number 9, moving up the list, North Bergen Township, where the average home is about $483,000, but yet are only paying $7,873. At number 8 is Hoboken, with an average residential property value, which again might sort of fluctuate, folks. There's a lot of expensive brownstones and a lot of high-priced properties along the waterfront that are not always rentals. And again, they're at an average of $526,846. And the average property tax bill in Hoboken is only $8,578. At number 7, Union City, where the average home value, residential value, is at $121,486, and coincidentally, property taxes are still at only $9,036. But now it's going up a little bit. And number 6 is Guttenberg, with the average residential property value at $250,000, and they're paying $9,991, basically $10,000. Number 5 is Kearney, where the average value again is only $98,299, and they're paying $10,387 on average. And number 4 is Harrison, where the average residential property value is $454,000, and they're paying $10,457. And number 3 is Jersey City, where an average property value is at $469,000, and they're paying well over $10,000 at $10,556. And number 2 is Bayonne, with an average residential value of $401,000, and they're paying an average of $10,777. And at number 1, folks, with the average residential property value at $766,000, and, again, there's a lot of beautiful $1 million plus homes in the township of Weehawken, where residents are paying on average $12,848. Folks, it's a suffocating number, to say the least. Again, as a Union City resident, I'm always thankful for State Senator and our Mayor, Brian Stack, for keeping property taxes down. But, folks, it's a serious problem in the state of New Jersey, as I just mentioned. I mean, a town like Millburn paying literally a quarter of almost $100,000 of property taxes every single year. That's scary. And where's it all going to? Well, I'm always trying to keep those in Trenton accountable, but as you can see, folks, property taxes fund our schools, but they also fund a lot of wasteful spending in Trenton, as we've all come to learn over the years. Whether it's Governor Murphy, Governor Christie, Governor Corzine, you name it, folks, a lot of far-left people that don't know economics in Trenton continue to make decisions on the budget, on taxation, and spending, and you can see where that's taking us. Lastly, folks, I do want to share a very important philanthropic story. And as you know, that your favorite journalist and educator, along with political commentator in New Jersey, is also your favorite philanthropist. And philanthropy is a serious part of my life and has been so for well over 15 years now. And an organization I'm very proud to partner with is Alzheimer's New Jersey. You can check out more about them at www.alznj.org. And certainly they are a worthwhile organization that, coming up on Friday night, April the 26th, at Lolita's in North Bergen, right along River Road, along the Edgewater border. I'll be hosting Memories Matter 2024, once again to benefit Alzheimer's New Jersey. Now, folks, you can see the flyer there. Obviously, there's some important links that I'll provide in the coming weeks. But I want to start talking about it now because Alzheimer's and dementia is a serious problem, not just in New Jersey, but around the country. And it's affecting more and more families each and every year. While we're seeing some strides in, for example, in cancer and other illnesses, we're not seeing that when it comes to Alzheimer's and dementia. And certainly while there's no cure for cancer per se, chemotherapy has gone and made considerable advancements over the years in helping to combat different forms of cancer. Where I'm proud to know many people, again, as someone who volunteers for the American Cancer Society every October during Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we all know the capabilities that chemotherapy and other medicine can do in terms of helping cancer patients. But there is no relief in sight, folks, when it comes to Alzheimer's and dementia. There is no known cure for this debilitating illness, which affects millions of Americans every single year. It affects men and women alike from all backgrounds and all races and ethnicities. It's an illness I've seen firsthand affect so many of my dear friends and colleagues over the years, which is why I'm proud to partner with Alzheimer's New Jersey to help hopefully find a cure to end Alzheimer's and dementia once and for all. In the coming weeks, I'll be providing more and more information about Alzheimer's New Jersey and once again the excellent work that they do to provide resources and aid to families all across the Garden State that are dealing with this very debilitating condition. So once again, you can check out their website, again, www.alzheimersnj.org. And you can get involved and certainly donate, where all donations are safe, secure, and tax deductible online. So I do urge you to mark it on your calendars for Friday night, April the 26th, for the 2024 edition of Memories Matter. Once again, all proceeds from the evening will benefit Alzheimer's New Jersey. There'll be valet parking available. There will certainly be plenty of raffle prizes, a 50-50, and of course DJ music and wonderful networking opportunities available all night long. So again, folks, put on your calendars, Friday night, April the 26th at Lolita's, located in North Bergen, New Jersey. You can check them out on their social media. And of course, all the festivities begin at 7 p.m. and we'll be partying well into the early morning, as they say, upon closing time at Lolita's in North Bergen. Once again, folks, Friday night, April the 26th, I'm proud to host Memories Matter to benefit Alzheimer's New Jersey. And that's our show for this week. Once again, to check out all of the outstanding programming brought to you by the Hudson Media Group, check out their websites, www.hmgtvshows.com, along with www.livestream.com/hmgtv. Don't forget to like the Hudson Media Group on Facebook, as well as follow them on Instagram and Twitter. Don't forget to subscribe to the Hudson Media Group on YouTube, and you'll be notified of all the outstanding content available every single week, whether it includes Talking Politics with Fernando Uribe, along with the Hudson County View Live, hosted by John R. Highness, Stick at Night with Hudson County Commissioner Anthony Romano, as well as all the other wonderful programming, once again brought to you by the Hudson Media Group. Don't forget to, of course, like Talking Politics with Fernando Uribe on Facebook, and of course, follow it on Instagram and Twitter. You can check out all the handles right below. And folks, I can't thank enough Pat O'Melia, the executive producer and CEO of the Hudson Media Group, for his support of this show as we approach year 5, folks, coming up in April in just a few weeks. So again, 5 years on the air. I'm immensely grateful to Pat O'Melia and all the wonderful staff and production crew here at the Hudson Media Group that make my job a hell of a lot easier. And always remember, folks, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it's always Talking Politics right here with the Hudson Media Group. I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist. Top 50 Latino is voted on by the Latino Spirit Online magazine, along with the Latino Affairs Initiative here in the United States. Folks, now more than ever, I'll continue to be the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State media because my level of honesty is necessary in this era of journalistic deception. That's right. It's me, folks, Fernando Uribe. Again, enjoy the warm weather. Enjoy these great spring days that are coming up ahead of us. And folks, always, we appreciate you tuning in here to the Hudson Media Group. And always remember, thanks for stopping by.